Hello everyone and welcome to Cold-Blooded Clowns. My name is Danny and today we're going to discuss part 3 of our vlog series, The Ultimate Investment, 90% Returns by Breeding Ball Pythons. And on this beautiful day we're going to cover two main subjects. Number one, we're going to discuss variable costs and how they affect your project. And number two, we're going to dip our toe into the genetic pool and see how genetics plays a major factor into our project and producing offspring. So what are variable costs? Well, as the name suggests, these are costs that will vary based on the production of your project. I'll give you an example. So in year one, you produce one clutch of 4 animals. Now, it's going to cost you a certain amount of money to take care of these animals, to feed them, to market them, until you find someone that wants to purchase them. Now, let's compare that to, say, year 4, where you have 20 animals. All those same costs apply, but no longer to 4 animals. It's going to apply to 20 animals. So as you can see, your costs are going to vary greatly from year 1 to year 4 in marketing and taking care and selling these animals. Now, costs may also vary depending on where you are located, say in the country or even the world. Everyone has a different project and has a different cost structure on how to take care of that project. I'll give you an example. I have a small project, I'm in an urban area. I go to a small pet store and I do pay a little bit of an elevated price on a per unit basis for my rodents. But if you have a larger project and say you live in Georgia and you can go to a local rodent farm and purchase animals for feed, it may be a lot lower on a per unit cost for you to feed your project. Even though these costs can vary greatly depending on where you are located in the world, it is very important to take them into consideration because these are the costs that will sneak up on you later on in the project and take you off guard and could possibly sink your project over time. My job here is to make you aware of all these costs to show you how I'm planning for them in my project and hopefully maximize your return on investment during the 5 years of Project Clown. So before we get into the actual variable costs that I am estimating for this project, it's important to set some parameters. As I have stated once before, I am taking a very conservative approach to this project so that I am under-promising and over-delivering at the end of the 5 years. So number one is that when talking about our production, I am only assuming that we are going to get 4 eggs per clutch. Now, this may seem low to a lot of people, but we all know that some females will lay slugs, some females may not even lay at all. So I thought it was a good number to go with 4 viable eggs per clutch. If we get more, great. It's all gravy at the end and our project's even better than we thought it could be. But I'd rather be safe than sorry, so I'm estimating 4 viable eggs per clutch. Number 2 is that every year, not every female is going to breed. In fact, in year 0, which we are in right now, we're purchasing our animals, we're fattening them up, we're getting their body condition, we are getting 0 clutches. In year 1, I am expecting 3 clutches. Years 2 and 3, we are going to expect 4 clutches. So again, this is a conservative approach. Hopefully we get years where every single animal produces and they're giving us 7 eggs per clutch. But the bottom line is that I'd rather be safe than sorry. So be more conservative and hopefully make more money in the end. Now let's take a look at the variable costs that I have estimated for my project and I think that are important for you to consider. Number 1 is going to be feeding. Feeding by far is going to be the most expensive variable cost in your project, and it will increase as the years go on because you're going to be producing more animals. Now, again, as I said before, your cost per rodent might be different than mine, and that is fine. But again, make sure you budget for the increase that's going to occur. Number 2 is going to be veterinary bills. Now, this is something that no one wants to happen, but everyone must budget for, okay? 3 years may go by and you may never even see a vet. But year 3, you may spend $1,000 or $2,000 at a vet. So it is important to budget for this so you're not caught off guard. Hopefully your animals are healthy 100% of the time, but in reality, that's not the case. Sometime within the 5 years, you're probably going to have to go see a veterinarian. And then we have marketing costs. This is again something that people don't take into consideration when first getting into the industry. okay? There's a couple of things that you can do for free, like Instagram and YouTube, but it will cost you a couple of dollars to get your name out there and have people understand what type of animals you're producing and what type of breeder you are. So one thing I suggest is stickers. Our community loves stickers. We're mailing them back and forth to each other, and I just think it's a very inexpensive way to not only get your name out there, but to meet some great people within the industry. And number two is definitely morphmarket.com. You need to spend some money. I think it's about $300 a year to get a seller's account on MorphMarket. Right now, with the way the industry is, everything's being shut down. Most animals are being sold on morphmarket.com, and it really has become the Amazon of the reptile industry. So do yourself a favor, spend a little money, and get yourself on MorphMarket. Have a good understanding of variable costs and why they are important to the project. So let's take a look at the estimated costs that I have associated for Project Clown. And you will see on this spreadsheet that we have a couple line items that read the following. We have feeding breeders, feeding hatchlings for year 1, feeding hatchlings for year 2 and 3, a substrate cost, vermiculite, advertising on MorphMarket, advertising with a sticker giveaway. We have an increased electric bill for your home, and we have veterinary bills. So in year 1, we're not expected to pay all these additional costs. The ones that are highlighted are as follows. We're going to be feeding our breeders. We need substrate for our breeders. We will have an increased electric bill and possible veterinarian costs. So that comes to a total of $1,610. So let's flip over to our total cost spreadsheet, and you will see the first line item reads ball python investment total year 0. That's where we are right now. And if you remember, in part 1 of this vlog series, we spoke about startup costs regarding equipment, and that ran us about $1,539. In part 2, we went out and purchased some breeders for a total of $10,970. And today we spoke about our variable costs, and for year 0, they're $1,610. That will bring us to a total of $14,119 as of year 0. Now, this is where the variable costs become important, because a lot of people would stop there and say, okay, my initial investment is $14,000. But as we explained before, your costs are going to increase as we move through the project. So let's jump back to the variable cost spreadsheet and take a look at where we're at. So now you see that this spreadsheet has some red line items on it. These line items are going to be associated with year 1 and getting our first clutches. So as you can see, we are expecting 12 animals year 1, so we have to feed them. We need vermiculite for them. And now this will be the first year where we're going to start advertising, because obviously at some point we want to sell these animals. So this will come to a total of $2,584. So again, let's flip back to the total cost spreadsheet and see where we're at. So as you see now, we have another line item, $2,584 for year 1. So as you see, these numbers are going to start to snowball a little bit, but because we planned for it, there should be no surprises. And then finally, in years 2 and 3, we are anticipating an increased production, 4 breeders laying eggs, and give us a total of 16 offspring. So we subtract year 1, but then we add the line item for year 2 and 3, and that comes to a total of $2,704. So in flipping back to our total cost spreadsheet, you will see that year 2 and year 3, we have line items for $2,704. So you can see that we now have a grand total of $22,110. This is much different than the original $14,119 that we got in year 0. So as you can see, I have flowed this out for the first 4 years of our project. Year 0 being only keeping the breeders, not producing, and then we have 3 years of production. And again, our total invested number was $22,110. Now, one point I want to make right now, and I want it to be crystal clear, is that our initial budget for part 1 of this vlog series was $20,000. And as you can see, so far we spent $22,110. This is an important point to make, because nobody is perfect, and the chances of you nailing your budget on the first try is probably slim to none. I've had the ability to work for some large businesses and also start a business or 2 myself, and I can tell you that every single business I've ever been associated with always associates a overage number. And in this case, our overage number to this point is 10%, or about $2,110. So my advice to you would be, when planning your project, definitely add a overage number anywhere from 5 to 10% into your budget, just so in case a amazing animal comes along and you want to buy it, you do have a little flexibility in there. Or God forbid you lose an animal due to illness. You know, overage budgeting is a part of any sound business practice. All right, so we have broken down our cost structure 3 different ways. We talked about startup costs, the breeder costs, and now variable costs. I think we have a solid foundation to start our project. So now let's switch gears a little bit and start talking about genetics and how it's going to affect our project moving forward. So genetics is a topic that we can speak to for hours, if not days. It can get complicated at times, but I was able to find a thread located on ballpythons.net. It was put together by JLC, and it's here for you to take a look at. And I believe her name was Judy, put together a layman's crash course in ball python genetics. And I'm not going to go into the whole thread with you, but I just want to touch on a couple glossary terms. But it is a great read, and if you have the time, go check it out. So she starts off by laying out some of the terminology that can be complicated to some people. So let's go over some of these terms. A gene is a molecular unit of DNA responsible for the physical and heritable characteristics of an animal. It is important to remember that an animal receives one gene from mom and one gene for dad for a given trait. And that animal now has a pair of genes, one from each parent. And each one of these genes is also known as an allele, or one member of a pair of genes at the same locus on the DNA helix. Now, a term that is thrown around a lot is dominant. And that stands for a dominant trait. So what is that? A visible mutation that appears when a single allele at a locus is different than the normal. A matched pair of mutated alleles will appear the same as the single. So an example of this would be the spider morph or the pinstripe, that no matter if you have one gene or two genes, you do not get a super form of the spider or the pinstripe. You just get the spider or the pinstripe. So they are what we consider dominant traits or dominant morphs. A codominant trait or morph is a visible mutation that appears when a single gene at an allele is different than the normal. A matched pair of this gene brings about a superform that looks different than the single. So an example of a codominant would be the pastel morph, where if you have one copy of the pastel, you have a nice lighter faded head snake. But if you have two copies of this codominant morph in the pastel, you get a even brighter, even more faded snake than you would if there was just a single gene. Okay, so now we go to what does heterozygous mean? It is an unmatched pair of alleles at any given locus. This term is usually reserved for recessive traits that do not show up even though one gene is present. So this is where we get the name het from. So if we have a normal ball python that is het for clown, what that is saying is that it has one copy of the gene but is lacking the second copy. Next we have homozygous. So homozygous is a matched pair of mutated alleles at any given locus. So if we have what we call a visual clown, that animal is now homozygous for the trait of clown. It has two copies of the mutated alleles that match at that given location that determines if this animal is going to be clown or not. Then we come to what it means to be a recessive, and this is a matched pair of mutated alleles must be together at the same locus in order to bring about a visual change. So again, a clown is what we consider a recessive morph because it needs to have two copies, one from mom, one from dad, of the clown trait at that given location on the DNA helix. Now that we've reviewed some basic terminology regarding genetics, let's hop over to morphmarket.com and input one of our more complicated pairings for Project Clown into the genetic calculator. So we're going to put in our clown pied pastel male, and we're going to breed him to our clown het pied female. So as you can see, with the push of a button, the genetic calculator here on Morph Market will give you the estimated results of this mating. So you have a 25% chance of having the following animals. You can get a pastel clown pieball, a pastel clown 100% het pieball, clown pieball, and finally a clown 100% het pieball. Now this is just an estimated guess. Okay, this may happen, this may not, but when planning your breeding, this is a great tool to use to understand what your possible outcomes may be and to think about how to invest in the future depending on what kind of offspring you would like to produce. Having a tool like this where you can just click a button and get estimated outcomes is amazing, especially in a world where we have breeders now on a daily basis talking about triple and quad het recessive animals with 3 or 4 co-dominants on top of it. So this tool is invaluable. However, I would like to take a step back and show you how these results are actually figured out. What you see before you is a Punnett square. It virtually is just a square made up of additional squares. Okay, and this is what is used before we had supercomputers where at a click of a button we could generate our results like we do on Morph Market's Morph Calculator. So at the top you will see we have NN. That stands for normal. So that's a normal ball python. Let's say that's the father. And then along the left hand side you have CC. We're going to say that's the mother, that's the clown. So it's double C stands for clown, double N stands for normal. And as you see, as we cross the N with the C throughout the Punnett square, we come up with 4 possible outcomes. They're all NC. So what this tells me is that if I breed a normal male to a clown female, every single one of the offspring is going to be half normal, half clown. So using the terminology that we just learned, we would say that all 4 of these offsprings are normal het clown. So now if we took this one step further and let's get a little bit more complicated and we said, okay, let's change the male out and breed him to a little bit more of a high-powered male. And let's say the male now is normal het clown, again breeding to the same female, which is a visual clown, because she has 2 copies of the gene. Now with this combination, you will see that we have the possibility of getting 2 different results through this mating. We can get both a normal het clown shown in red and a visual clown shown in green. So let's just say, for example, this mating produces a clutch of 4 eggs. The estimated outcome would be 50% normal het clowns and 50% visual clowns. All right, so now let's jump up the combination one more notch. So let's change out that male. We're going to have a new male. This male is now a pied clown. So the pied is double P, the clown is double C. So again, the male is pied clown. And down the left-hand side is our female, and she's going to be a clown het pied. So double C is clown, het pied is the NP. So what do we get out of this combination? Again, we have a 50-50 outcome. So the outcome would be clown het pieds or clown pieds. So what this example is saying is that out of a clutch of, say, 16 eggs, 50% of that, which would be 8, would be a double visual clown pied or a clown het pied. So now this brings us back to the initial mating that we inputted into the morphmarket.com genetic calculator. And as you can see, it can get very complicated very quickly. So that's why we love the tools that MorphMarket provides to us. But again, let's walk through this example. So across the top, that will be our male. We are saying that this male is clown pied NX. So what does NX stand for? That's going to stand for a pastel. So this male is a clown pied pastel, and we're going to breed him to a clown het pied no pastel. So that's why I have the double N's, no pastel. So what do we come up with? We come up with exactly what the Morph Market genetic calculator told us. We come up with 4 different colors, as you can see, which is 25% odds of getting the following combinations. Clown Hepides, we can get Clown Hepides Pastel, we can get Clown Pides, and we can get Clown Pides Pastel. Again, each having a 25% chance of happening. So this Punnett square gives us a total of 4 different outcomes. But as you can see, if this mating became more complicated, let's say it was a quad recessive with more codominance, we may have 64 different outcomes. So this is where you hear some breeders say that I have 1 in 8 chance, or 1 in 16 chance, or 1 in 128 chance, is because some of the animals that they're pairing up are so loaded with different recessive and codoms that the chances of hitting a desired animal can be very, very limited. So this was a very quick synopsis on genetics and how it relates to ball pythons, specifically to our Project Clown. If you have any other questions regarding genetics and how they work, please leave comments to this video and I will do my best to answer them. Okay, that's it for our segment today, but please look out for our 4th installment of this vlog series, The Ultimate Investment, 90% Returns by Breeding Ball Pythons. Now that we have our cost structure all set up, we've also talked a little bit about the genetics and how the pairings are going to work. In segment 4, we're going to dive into actually mating some animals, producing some offspring, and starting to see hopefully some profits roll in.